Welcome to Guiding Light. I'm Sierra Larsen,
I'm Jenna Carson.
and today we are joined by hypnotherapist Janna Larsen, which you heard that right. Her name is Janna Larsen, so a combination of kind of like Jenna and Sierra Larsen. So we're so happy to have her here. Janna is a certified clinical hypnotherapist with a passion for helping people overcome limiting beliefs and behaviors. She also teaches clients how to speak and think more effectively through positive mind management skills and tools. Janna came to hypnotherapy and positive mind management after experiencing a traumatic brain injury that led her to the healing power of hypnotherapy in her own life. She now uses hypnotherapy to help others to live a more purposeful and conscious life. Jana is also launching her own podcast in January 2025 called Think and Feel with Skill, which will be available on Spotify. Welcome, Jana.
Hello. It's
Hi,
good to be with you ladies today.
yes, we're so happy to have you.
Thank you. I have so many wonderful things that we could talk about. I'm so excited. What would you like to know first? Shall we start with what is hypnotherapy?
How about we tell our listeners a little bit more about you and your
Oh,
story.
okay. Well, my story is interesting. I have been a lifelong, my lifelong career as an adult has been in hair and makeup design. I spent many years in a salon raising my kids. And around 38 or 39, I decided to go back to college and receive a theater degree from the University of Utah. And that led to doing hair and makeup design for stage, film, TV, commercials. And it was a super fun life, super fun. So that's how Sierra and I met, actually. I met Sierra doing a shoot for chaplains for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And what a blessing to have met Sierra. So, my story and how I became involved in hypnotherapy is in 2018. My husband and I were at the beach in California on vacation, and we were at Fort Bragg. Glass Beach. It's beautiful. It's a very rocky beach. And I was navigating the rocks and the boulders there at the beach, getting closer and closer to the water. And I looked down and I saw a boulder, and I could have gone either direction around it. And for some reason, I went to go one direction and decided I ought to go the other. And I slipped on some pebbles and went down a little hill. And as I hit the bottom of that little hill, I hit my head simultaneously on a boulder to my right side and on my camera lens in the middle of my forehead. Well, it's interesting because I had literally just wrapped my head with a scarf and put a hoodie over that scarf. So when my head hit the boulder, it was slightly padded. And so it was a hard hit. It hurt. The camera lens cracked my forehead. But it didn't seem like something worthy of seeing a doctor immediately. But when we got home, I started to have concussion symptoms, and I was diagnosed with a mild concussion. And yet, 4 months later, I started having more and more concussion symptoms, including tinnitus in my head. It's pretty moderate. I wouldn't call it severe, but I manage it really well with mind management. But
Jana,
yeah,
could you explain what tinnitus is in case someone doesn't know?
yes. So tinnitus is a ringing in your ears. And a lot of people actually have this. It's funny when it first comes on, a lot of people get it when they're older because of loss of hearing, or people in the military if they hear a lot of loud sounds. I've become so familiar with it in the terms of concussions. A lot of people talk about it as being something that came on after a concussion, some sort of brain injury. It doesn't even have to be like a traumatic brain injury, but it's just a really good hit to the head or loud sounds or loss of hearing. you will get a ringing in your ear. Some people explain it as like a whoosh. Some people say it sounds like a river going through your head. Other people, um, like myself, do you know what a cicada sounds like
Yes, I'm from
in
the
the trees?
Midwest.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
it's
we
like
know
a
cicadas.
yes, that's true. You would. So mine sounds a lot more like cicadas, like that constant high pitched buzz. At first, when it first came on, it sounded a lot to me like a 1950s sci-fi like movie, like when Frankenstein comes alive and the electricity goes into him, and he wakes up. And it's incredibly distracting, and it affects your whole life. Like it'll affect your sleeping, you're awake, everything. And I at first it really sent me into depression and suicidal ideation. And I'm the type of person that, really kind of prides themselves on how happy I always am and how happy I always was. But this really affected me. And so between the the brain injury itself and the symptoms that came from that, which can also create a lot of sad feelings, and the sound that I was not having the skills to navigate, I was just experiencing a lot of depression and suicidal ideation. And that has actually become something that has been a blessing in my life now, because I'm able now to understand people who have depression or suicidal ideation, regardless of what brought that on for them. So I'm
Um,
actually pretty grateful for that. Yes.
Yeah, Jana, I have this thought about, I love that you mentioned, you were walking on this beach and you came to this boulder and you could have gone either direction. And
Yes.
some people are like, well, maybe the other direction would have been worse, or maybe like it would have been better, and maybe the other direction you would have been fine and you would have walked on your way. But what I love about this story is the direction that you went it led you down a really challenging road. There
Yes.
were a lot of things associated with that that choice that was really painful. But now looking at it, you're able to say, actually, it's what needed to happen for me to go on this journey, for me to learn all of the things that I've learned and help the people that I've helped. So I love that, a lot of times we have in working with trauma, a lot of things that we have are like if I hadn't have made this choice, everything would have been fine, everything would have been better. I wish I had chosen something differently, something different. But sometimes like we miss that if we had chosen the other choice, we wouldn't have learned the lesson and we wouldn't have become a better person and had all of these experiences or been able to like help other people because we went through such hard times. So I just love the imagery of that. That's what I'm thinking of as you're like kind of just telling this story.
Yeah. So Sierra, you really pulled something significant out there. I was actually thinking a little bit, well, do I want to go there as I was telling the story? Because I literally did. I listened very closely to the spirit in my life and in making even just small decisions like that. And I remember looking down and thinking I would go to the left around this boulder and literally feeling like the safest path was to go the other way. And then I slipped and fell. And it's was explored quite often with a lot of discussions with energy healers and other colleagues through hypnotherapy and friends, and through like spiritual guidance and uh, people that I received a lot of support from, that we've explored that whole idea of like, why would you feel that the safest way is the way that took you down this difficult path? And people can everybody's going to have sort of their own impression of what that is. And like, even like, well, Heavenly Father, did he pull the rug out from under me, or did he just feel like, well, she's not learning what she needs to learn, so I'm going to push her this way? Like, you can't really be that um like obvious about it, you know. All I can say now, looking back, and because of what I understand now and seeing where it has taken me, that the most difficult thing in my life has been also the greatest blessing, which is super interesting because um, I am now more able to be present with you and conscious in my conversation with you, more interested in what you have to say. I can be more clear about what I want to say. My whole being is more conscious, and yet I'm this sound back here is still there.
Yeah.
So it's a really big testament also to what you can teach yourself, what you can do to improve on a difficult situation.
So, Janna, how did you come to learn about positive mind management after this accident?
So good question. I was seeing energy healers, and I actually saw a different hypnotherapist that didn't really like resonate with me as much as the one who I actually ended up with. I went to a functional neurologist. A functional neurologist is somebody who's able to do a bunch of tests, generally through the eye and through movement, to find out what parts of your physical brain are broken or injured, right? I don't like the word damage. We're going to use injured. So he worked with me for a year, and he said, Janna, your physical brain is doing really well. And I said, but why am I not happy yet? Like, how come I can't get my happy back? And he said, okay, look, I need you to go see this particular hypnotherapist and he'll help you out. He was a colleague of his that he really respected. And his name was W. Dennis Parker. And the functional neurologist's name is Dr. John Hatch. And he's worldwide known, but he's right here, like right down the street from my home. So that was super lucky. I was blessed for that. So he told me he said, go see him. And I ignored him for like 6 months. I'm like, I'm not going to do it. It's more out of pocket. It's all the way up in a city that's a good hour and a half away. I'm not going to do it. And finally, one day he just said, Janna, I think you should go see Dennis Parker. So I went up there, and within 2 visits, just 2 conversations with him and 1 hypnotherapy session, because he didn't hypnotize me the first time, he told me he needed to dehypnotize me first, which is also a really cool story because there's a lot of people who are walking around awake who are not necessarily fully conscious. And
Mhm.
I was one of those people. They have a name for those people, and it's called a somnambulistic person. And we can get more into that if we want to. So he helped pull me more conscious. And I have to tell you, honestly, for the first 2 weeks of what he taught me, it was a lot of work. I spent a lot of time working to think and speak the way he wanted me to think and speak. And within 2 weeks of working with him, I felt such a shift that I decided to sign up for his course. And within 3 months, I did all my work and got myself certified.
Wow.
And because it was just something that just really resonated with me. And I knew that by taking his class, even if I didn't end up helping other people or starting a business with it, I knew that I would learn it more like, profoundly by learning it through class rather than just going to him as a client. Uh, Not everybody needs to do that with a hypnotherapist, but for me, it was the path that I think the Lord wanted me to go on. And so it was super cool and super amazing, super fast. And I have to tell you one more cool thing about this particular guy and this experience. So I put it off and put it off, right? He Dr. Hatch kept saying, you need to go see Dennis Parker. I kept putting it off. So I go, and I actually took his second to the last class he ever taught. He taught my fall class in 2020. And then I attended his last class in the winter of 2021, just as somebody who is certified and, reviewing a little bit more. At the end of that course, he was diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer and was gone within 5 months of my first meeting him. The man that the Lord wanted me to meet and change my life so that I could help change other people's lives. So within 5 months, this man who I met changed my life and taught me something that I can do to help other people was gone. And now I get to carry on his work. So I feel like that's not a coincidence.
Sounds like you were led to the exact right person, the exact right time. And like you said, what a gift that he could pass on that knowledge to you.
Yeah, yeah.
So, Jana, tell us, what is hypnotherapy?
Well, first let's start with what is hypnosis. Okay. Hypnosis is a natural state of mind with an extraordinary state of emotional, physical, and mental relaxation. So basically, anybody can be hypnotized. As a matter of fact, you go through the levels of hypnosis every night as you go from being awake to being asleep. And every morning, you go through hypnosis levels again as you wake up. And I can show you those levels if you'd like. We can talk about those. There's a chart, and it looks a little bit complicated, but it's actually quite easy. When we say hypnosis, we're also talking about pondering, like when you are asked to like ponder a question in your mind or ponder the scriptures. We also use the word trance because you're in an altered state of consciousness and hypnosis, which everybody's pretty aware of. So we have our conscious, our waking suggestion state, and that's where when we're awake, we're like normal, we're hopefully conscious, being able to be with somebody. We're able to make analytical and logical choices. This is where critical thinking and evaluation and being fully alert comes from. In hypnotherapy, the best thing you can do is use positive self-talk when you're fully conscious. The next one down is waking hypnosis. Now, what's really cool about this is, have you ever been in a situation where you're like sort of thinking about something and you sort of drift off for a moment? That's what waking hypnosis is. It's also sort of that place where, you're on the freeway and you're going somewhere you've been many, many times, and you kind of zone out. And the next thing you know, oh my gosh, I'm here. And I don't even remember that I passed all these particular, exits. Have you ever missed your exit?
Oh, Jenna. Jenna and I recently just were driving to my house and fully just went on the wrong highway. Just fully, like, we were supposed to go south and we went like totally north because we were chatting and I was kind of on autopilot. So that's actually really funny that you bring
Yeah.
that up. Yeah.
Yeah. So autopilot is waking hypnosis,
Oh, wow. Okay.
right? And in hypnotherapy, it's a really great place to do affirmations because you're sort of like your waking or sleep state is in daydreaming, right? You're just daydreaming about, because if you're alone and you miss your exit, it's kind of funny actually that you guys missed your exit with two of you there. That means you were both slightly hypnotized
Yeah.
by the road. I
That
love
happens
that.
when we talk. Just she and I are just talking and then we're like, oh, where are we?
That is so awesome. I love that. So that's a really great example of that. In hypnoidal, your mind is awake, but your body is still resting. So when you woke up this morning, did you notice that, your mind wakes up first because you've come up through those levels of hypnosis and you open your eyes, but your body is still super, super relaxed. and you're like kind of working to convince yourself it's time to start moving. It's time to kind of get up. That's that sort of hypnoidal stage where you experience every morning where you just sort of open your eyes, but everything is still really relaxed, and you have to kind of start to talk yourself into getting up. This
That's
is a
not
really great,
easy.
yeah,
I struggle with that.
yeah. So if you see in the chart where it says in hypnotherapy, this is a great place to use auto suggestions. This is a really great place in the morning to start with your morning meditation, or start saying to yourself, today's going to be a really great day. I wonder what amazing thing will happen to me today that, I can make into a really great situation, or who can I help today? This is sort of the place that people who use a lot of meditation can kind of really set the tone for their day. And you can do it even if you're waking up and you're like, oh, don't really feel that great this morning. You can literally start to convince yourself that you're feeling pretty good by just saying, you know what? I don't feel really great right now, but I'm going to get up and I'm going to get ready for the day, and I'm going to have this corrected in a moment. And I know that, Jenny, I'm sure you're into meditation. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, because most yoga people are great at meditation.
I feel like for me, it's an ongoing process.
Uh-huh.
Even though I've been meditating for years, my mind is
Yes.
still very, very active, and it is definitely more effective if I do it first thing in the morning, or it's easier, it's more natural.
Yeah.
Of course, we
Yeah.
need meditation throughout the day when things do get busy and chaotic. So
Right.
it's important throughout the day. I think, as you're saying, though, the positive mindset shifts, those suggestions work very well when you first wake up. And Dwayne Schallenberger talks about that in episode 7 of our podcast. His techniques would be great to do in the morning in that hypnoidal state.
Yes. Yes. Now, it occurs to me that one of the reasons why it might be a little bit more challenging to get into that meditative state in the day when you've already been awake and you're conscious and you're noticing that, oh, this would be a good time to meditate, is because you have to get yourself into that physical state that you're already in when you are waking up. Like, it's natural that it's coming to you as you're waking up. But if you've been up and moving around, your body isn't as relaxed. One suggestion I can give there is, if you're working to make meditation work in the middle of the day, is to make sure that you do a few nice deep diaphragmatic breaths. Remind yourself to relax your facial muscles and your shoulders. And it's so interesting when you relax your face, particularly take that like perma smile off your face, because like I'm always like this. I notice as soon as I drop my jaw, my body tends to follow now because it's so practiced in relaxing itself. So if I'm working to get myself asleep or into a relaxed state in the middle of a stressful situation, if I relax my face and breathe diaphragmically, I'll immediately feel more relaxed and less tension. So the next two are really, really important to hypnotherapy, because the next one down, you have catalepsy. And catalepsy is, I can see what we call abreactions. I'll be able to notice when a person is in a place where they're ready to do some really serious work, because I might see some rapid eye movement. I'll see some swallowing. Um, it's a place of real peace on your face. Like, you can see that a person is really ready. Your arms and limbs are very immobile and relaxed. And you're even breathing even if I have you breathing diaphragmically, you start to breathe diaphragmically at a more natural rhythm. And you notice that this is a good time that you're able to start to have your conscious mind have more access to your subconscious. So you're fully awake, but you're in a real nice state where you have good communication between the conscious and the subconscious mind. And when I recognize this state, this is when we're able to do things like age regression, Gestalt is like clinical hypnotherapy, where you actually are able to, find the sensitizing event, find the emotion that, help to create the behavior that you're wanting to change. This is where we're able to do parts therapy. Parts therapy is something we do in hypnotherapy where we're able to work with how to um, deal with our chronic illnesses or chronic discomfort. I use the word discomfort rather than pain when I talk about pain because it softens, the impression that when you hear pain, you feel like, oh, I should be in pain right now. But if I say discomfort, it's like, oh, just a little uncomfortable. But this is where we're also able to do any kind of inner child integration. So that's a really important one to hypnotherapy. The next level down is super important as well. There's that word that I used before. See that synambulism? Synambulism, synambulism is a place where we're able to do a lot of guided imageries and stories and scripts. And this is where people who do a lot of like hypnotherapy or hypnosis for childbirthing, this is where people go for that. When they say, focus on, a spot within the room and you're able to be more in control of the contractions. And this is actually the only thing about hypnosis that I was super familiar with. I birthed all three children with a method uh, that used hypnosis, and I didn't even realize that that's exactly what I was doing. That I was in the somnambulistic state where I'm able to like put myself somewhere else as I'm experiencing childbirth. So this brings us to the Estale state. The really interesting thing about the Estale state is it's really super close to sleep. And it's named after a doctor called Dr. James Estale. And he was a doctor practicing, he was an English doctor practicing in India in the 1700s. And he saw in India a person do brain surgery on somebody without any anesthesia at all.
Wow.
And I've seen recordings of people who have had like their appendix out with no anesthesia, no general anesthesia at all. And they are putting themselves there through hypnosis and they're in the Estale state. Like I have not been in the Estale state for anything like this. And I just think it's fascinating that you can actually teach burn victims how to put themselves in this state. It's kind of where you go if you use dentistry, but I know that I use hypnosis during dentistry, and it's phenomenal, but I don't imagine that I'm as far down as the Estale state. But so that one's pretty amazing. They call that a hypnotic coma. So the next thing you have is sleep. So, and of course, that's where, our body is restores and repairs itself and the rejuvenation of the mind. So the whole reason why you've got the brain activity over there is to just show that as you go down to rest or the lower you get in hypnosis, your brain activity becomes less active. And that's where you're able to quiet the mind. It's just showing that science has shown that while you're in hypnosis, your mind is more quiet. So you're able to do the work and access those things that you want to access and find the behaviors and the emotions that are, creating the behaviors that you want to make a more positive change.
Yeah.
So that's basically hypnosis, pretty much a deep dive into what hypnosis is. It's a natural state and everybody can be hypnotized. And I think it's really important to address, people might have seen like stage hypnosis, and things like that. But it's, as a hypnotherapist, I have no control over anybody. While you're in hypnosis, you still have all your same morals and values and ideas, and you're not going to say anything to me that you're not comfortable with. Your mind is going to do the work that you need to do. And I'm only there to help you do what you need to do for yourself. So that's basically a deep dive on what hypnosis itself is. And so now, what is a hypnotherapist? So, a hypnotherapist is somebody who understands these levels and understands how to recognize these levels when they're working with somebody and know which therapies are best to do in which level. And if a person is not in that level, a hypnotherapist, a good hypnotherapist, will be able to recognize that and be able to get them into the state that they need to be in order to do the work that they want to do. So that's the long answer to what's a hypnotherapist.
So Janna, could you actually give us an example of how hypnotherapy can help people change behaviors?
Yeah, Sierra, I have a great example for that. One of the hypothetical stories that I like to share with my clients when we're having a consultation is that when you're in hypnosis, you're able to look at the true situation of what happened and tell yourself what really is going on there. So let's just imagine that we have somebody who feels like their dad doesn't like them very much. And they haven't ever really figured out why. They just feel a little, kind of uneasy with him. Maybe they feel like they don't really belong in their family. When we take them into hypnosis and we're doing hypnotherapy, we're able to go back and look at that situation. Now, perhaps there's a campfire and you're sitting around the campfire and you're like 3, 4 years old, maybe 4 or 5 years old enough to kind of understand that everybody looks like they're feeling included sitting around the fire and they're putting their marshmallow into the fire and their hot dogs and enjoying the time. And you get a little bit too close to the fire and your dad thinking, oh no, what if she gets burned? What if she hurts herself? And dad just thinking, oh, I need to get her safe, grabs the back of your shirt, pulls you out away from the fire, kind of pushes you aside. He doesn't really notice that you're feeling like, you're thrown aside. And, 4 or 5-year-old Janna is over there going, oh, I must not be wanted. They don't want me in the circle. They don't care about me. Dad pushed me aside. So that begins to inform a kid's feeling about how their dad feels about them or how their family may feel about them. And really, what's really happening there is that your dad just wanted to keep you safe. But how often do we think as parents, oh, I need to remember that, she's a person who's probably, growing her feelings now for the way she feels about her belonging. And you take the child, sit them down and say, we really love you and we want you to be close to us and sit here really calm with us and have a great time around the fire. But we need you to be here and be safe away from the fire because you can get hurt. But so often as parents, we don't think of that. And so this child, the next time something happens, that begins to inform, you go about finding more evidence of why your dad doesn't like you or why your family doesn't want you around. And you begin to feel like you don't belong. And if a person is like allowed to continue to feel that way, then pretty soon you have a young adult who feels like their dad doesn't like them, or they find more evidence and they start to fight back themselves. And pretty soon you have a situation where you need to go back and find the truth, which was just that dad didn't mean to hurt your feelings. He just wanted you to be safe. And that's a really simplified version of what happens to always come up for my clients. Most of the time, a situation that comes up, people say, oh my goodness, I hadn't thought about that experience for a very long time, or I had forgotten that happened. I can absolutely see how that can happen. And they find the truth around it and they make a new decision, and the new decision informs new behaviors. Now you could get, more serious in the situation of like true traumas. And in true traumas, it's more important to help a person work through that. And the truth might be that maybe somebody really did want to cause them hurt. And that's when we take a different direction. But that gives you just kind of a small idea of how a lot of the things that that we are that affect us as just as we are growing up, we are not necessarily always informed as to what's really going on.
Yeah.
And, in the situation of true trauma, it's important to remind somebody that it wasn't their fault and, they didn't deserve it. You're enough. And, all of those other things that we know, a healthy, personality feels about themselves. So, and I know, Sierra, you would have a whole lot to, to to add to that.
Yeah, we would literally need like 5 episodes for you and I to just talk about
I
what we do in the work because yeah, but just, from a clinical side, well, from my side of it, because what you do is clinical, but from my perspective as a licensed clinical social worker, what I see happening in your work is going to the place where kind of a core belief is established. Where in your memory, in your memories, do you have this core belief? And you go there and then you look at it and you establish like, okay, is this true? What's going on? What's going on here? And then coming to a new conclusion. And so that's very similar to what I do in a different way. But I love that you explain that because for me that I think demystifies, the pop culture idea of hypnotherapy with the watch, and the
Yes.
you're feeling sleepy and then, you come out of this hypnosis completely healed and totally fine and everything's better. But what I love about your explanation is it really sheds light on what hypnotherapy actually is and what it does. And it is cool for me to hear about because I understand how it's working from my perspective and what I do in therapy. And it is very similar. It's just a kind of a different method of getting to the same place. So that's awesome.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you so much for explaining hypnotherapy. And we are so excited to hear from you in part two, talking about what it was like going from being a hairstylist in, the media industry and changing careers and now going into this life of hypnotherapy and integrating those two identities. So stay tuned for part two. I'm Sierra Larson,
I'm Jenna Carson.
and we hope you follow the piece.